After all this time, we're finally getting some love for break effect. We had some units who interacted with break effects, but this time it's for real. We already got Boothill and a brand new path for our main character, and we're also getting Firefly on the next patch. But do you know how break effect works? And what about this whole new super break? Is this going to be the new meta? Well, fear not, because in this video we're going through the basics of break effect and also explain a little more about this new mechanic called super break. Ready? Let's roll. So, what is a weakness break? Well, the game has a tutorial about it, but some people may have overlooked it, and I also said that we're going for the basics, right? Every time you deal damage as the same type of one of those weakness, you're going to deplete some of its toughness bar. Every skill has a different amount of toughness reduction or toughness damage. Right now, on the 2.2, the game doesn't show the toughness reduction, but if you're watching this in the 2.3 and above, then you can see on your skill information the amount of toughness damage the attack will deal to the enemy. When the enemy toughness reaches 0, the enemy breaks, receiving a certain amount of damage, and getting a debuff based on the element used to trigger the weakness break. Quick note here, just like damage over time, this break damage cannot crit, so building crits won't have any impact on your final break damage. Most of these debuffs are going to do some sort of damage to enemies. The only exception here is imaginary, which is a pure control debuff. Physical, wind, lighting, and fire will apply damage over time on enemies. Ice and Quantum will apply a burst of damage once the enemy acts. Ice Break will also skip the enemy turn, and Quantum delays the enemy action by a little bit. Oh, and by the way, if the enemy has any amount of toughness, he gets a 10% damage reduction. So do your best to break enemies so you can deal some extra damage. Every type of element and debuff has a different base damage value. This value then is applied on the following formula, which may seem a little bit scary, but don't worry, we're not going that deep into explaining the whole formula. I'll just take away the important points so you can understand how break damage works. Break damage doesn't scale with attack, meaning that no matter how much damage you're doing, when triggering a weakness break, your break damage won't increase. Besides some specific and rare effects, the only thing you can build in order to increase your break damage is increasing your character level and break effect. Those specific stats are defense reduction, defense ignore, resistance penetration, and vulnerabilities. Damage bonus has no effect on your final break damage bonus. So, as you can see, beside those specific stats, it's really hard to scale break damage. Ruan Mei, for example, can increase your break damage by a fair amount, since she provides break effect, break efficiency, and also resistance penetration on her ultimate. The Quantum set defense ignore bonus can also increase your total damage, especially if you're dealing with an enemy that has Quantum weakness. Speaking of weakness, there are some characters that can ignore weakness and still reduce the enemy toughness. Acheron and Shui, for example, can reduce toughness on their ultimates, even if the enemy has no lighting or Quantum weakness. Some characters can also apply weakness on enemies. Silverwolf can apply one of your team elements as a weakness in the enemy, but Hill can apply physical weakness and Firefly can apply fire weakness. This way, even if you're dealing with enemies without any of your team elements as a weakness, you can still break them. To sum it up, to increase your break damage, focus on getting break effect and get any source of defense threat, resistance penetration, and vulnerabilities on enemies. Attack and bonus damage won't increase your break damage, but of course will increase any other source of damage. Thanks to all of that and the fact that you need to wait for the enemy to recover their toughness before being able to deal another instance of break damage, there is no reason to build break at all. It's really bad, and you can deal way more damage by using class crit build. Or at least, that was the case until now. Enter Super Break, a brand new mechanic introduced in the game on the 2.2 patch. Now we finally have a good reason to build break effect. Remember all the Thalia you've decided to toss away and recycle? Well, too bad for you. But don't worry, because we also get a brand new relic set on the 2.3. Yay! More disgusting farm! Super Break is a mechanic that for now is only available to the Harmony path of your main character and Firefly. But the Harmony main character is the only one who can provide Super Break for your whole team. So, what is Super Break? Well, it's another type of break damage that you can do to enemies in the weakness broken state. As you can imagine, it scales with break effect and is in fact really similar to the default break damage. If you take a look in the formula, the only significant change here is that the base damage is now based on the toughness reduction value. We also get another super break damage multiplier, but so far, the only character that can increase the super break is the Harmony Trailblazer, based on the number of enemies in the field. Just like break damage, super break damage also cannot crit. But this time, we also have a sort of hidden multiplier to your super break damage. Since now toughness reduction will trigger the super break damage, it means that you can also build speed in order to trigger super break a few more times before the enemy gets up. That means that, once again, Ruan Mei is the queen when talking about super break multipliers. Besides all the break efficiency and resistance penetration that we already talked about, Ruan Mei also increases your team speed and can extend the enemy broken state. Does it mean that you need Ruan Mei in order to play super break? Well, that's a tough question. While you don't need Ruan Mei to deal super break damage and build a super break team, Ruan Mei alone can increase your team damage by a fair amount. And we are not only talking about break teams, we're talking about any kind of team and damage, because Ruan Mei also gives a damage boost to your team. This means that Ruan Mei is definitely the most broken Harmony character in the game right now. So, while you don't need Ruan Mei to play a break-oriented team, Ruan Mei can take your damage to new heights. I'm sure that we will get some new break-focused support characters in the future, so Ruan Mei will probably lose some space to new characters. And for the final question, is this going to be the new meta? Well, honestly, I don't think so. I like the way we're getting some new ways to build and play the game, and besides that, since super break damage does not require you to build attack and other offensive stats on your characters, it means that even supports can do some extra damage when using offensive moves. For example, you could go for a Harmony Trailblazer, Gallagher, Pella, and Asta as your team, and as long as the enemy is weak to those elements, you will be able to break them and deal super break damage. As a final tip, just because break damage cannot crit, doesn't scale with attack, and can't benefit from damage bonus, it doesn't necessarily mean that those stats are going to be useless on your character. Basic attack and skills can scale with your attack. Firefly, for example, gets extra break effect based on her attack. Since this isn't a guide focused on a single character, I won't give any advice here. Just remember that break-focused characters most of the time have diminishing returns when compared to getting break effect rolls and speed. So now that you understand how break and super break works, I hope you have some fun when building characters like Shui, Boothill, or whoever you like as a break character. If you still have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. As always, thanks for watching and have a beautiful day.